All right, first rule of the channel, we not talk about the channel. Second rule of the channel, this is not legal advice. So this is going to be the roll, don't roll grift for week 8 of fantasy football, and there's going to be a lot of interesting maybes to be rolling out on our lineup this week. Quick housekeeping stuff. I am not particularly technologically savvy. If you haven't figured that out by now, I did switch over from StreamYards to OBS to see if I can kind of solve some of my problems on my end, and I did get a couple comments about the mic. Waiting after like last week to see that no one said anything. I did try and screw around with some of the settings on OBS, so hopefully the mic problems are kind of going to be heading in the positive direction. But anyway, let's get into the grift with it this week. There's only one real weather game to be looking at, and that's going to be with your Seattle Seahawks and your Buffalo Bills. 99% chance of rain going on out there right now when it comes to that game. So, like, that is a variable I would be tracking on it mattering, especially when it comes to the Buffalo Bills and their running game primarily. Titans and Lions in this one, 46.5 implied points. You are going to be looking at the Lions by 7. That's probably very much not surprising to anybody out there that the Lions are projected to blow out the Titans in this one. You are going to be looking at Will Levis being questionable all week with his shoulder. That's primarily if you're going to be the Lions defense owner rolling them out. So that's like moving in the right direction. And Tajay Spears is going to be questionable, limited all week with a hamstring. I don't think that necessarily changes Tony Pollard. When it comes to the Lions, I wouldn't be interested in rolling out like Allen Robinson, that the coach did come out and say that he is expected to be a larger part of the offense. I wouldn't be tracing, Allen Robinson with your roster. I probably would not be chasing Tim Patrick with your roster either. Yes, right there. Increased role expected when it comes to Allen Robinson. I just generally think that this would upgrade Gibbs, the Sun God, and Laporta. The consolidation of targets are likely to occur in this one instead of having a guy that they're going to have plays called up for when it comes to Jamison Williams. And again, I wouldn't be chasing any of the Titans at all in this game, outside of if you're the Pollard owner and you're going to be rolling them out as an RB2. All right, Ravens and Browns. And right now you're looking at the Ravens and Browns 45.5 implied points, and Ravens by 1.5, which is a little surprising. Expecting that, like, with Jameis Winston coming in and the Ravens looking like an absolute juggernaut, like, it's a little surprising to me. Famous Jameis is projected to start. Jerome Ford is projected to be out with a hamstring in this one. The other one to be looking at in this game to be following is going to be Zay Flowers. And I already think like Zay Flowers and Rashod Bateman, they're pretty much like in that low end 2, if not high end 3 type of flex range. And then if Zay Flowers, if he plays, I still think that like you still are going to be playing with a little bit of fire. He may be the dreaded decoy, or it may not be his week. On top of that, you do generally want pieces of this offense. I did talk to one of my co-managers about rolling out Rashod Bateman in our flex spot if Zay Flowers is out. I think he's still in your deep enough leagues is still going to be a good enough role, because you just want pieces of an offense that can score 30 or 40 points on any given week when it comes down to that. And then when it comes to the Browns, like Nick Chubb right now, he would project to be a very solid, okay running back 2 going forward. The Ravens defense, even though they have been very good against the run, in general they have not been necessarily good against the pass. And trying to guess like what that's going to mean, you see Baltimore's like the worst, especially like that's going to happen when you're scoring so many points that the other team is going to be forced from trying to run the football to throw the football all the time. That would theoretically even open up like Nick Chubb's ability to score points in one way or another, whether it's like check down monster work or getting in the red zone and falling in the end zone, something like that. So it would keep me like okay with rolling Nick Chubb out there as an RB2 this week. And then some of the other guys like David Njoku, I think is like probably like a top 5 tight end right now going forward in the offense. And then Cedric Tillman would be the only other guy that I'd probably be throwing out there in that wide receiver 3 type of dart throw range, seeing if you can chase those 12 targets from last week. And then if you're in a deep enough league that you have to be chasing like a Jerry Jeudy or Elijah Moore, like I'm sorry, when it comes down to trying to see if you're going to be right on that one. And again, like outside, if you're wondering about like your Ravens tight ends, like your guess is as good as mine. Again, they don't care about your fantasy lineup. Packers and Jaguars, 46 implied points, which is like okay. Packers by half a point, which means Vegas doesn't know, which is a little surprising to me. All things considered, is inconsistent / bad. The Packers have been all season right now. And then we are looking at Travis Etienne. He is going to be a game time decision. Probably the biggest news to be looking at when it comes to Etienne and whether or not he's going to play is whether or not you'd feel comfortable rolling out your Tank Bigsby shares as your flex or your running back too. That would be the biggest thing. If Etienne's available, I probably wouldn't be rolling out anybody. If Etienne isn't available, I still wouldn't necessarily want to be chasing Tank Bigsby against the Packers. I just don't think it's necessarily the greatest thing to be doing in the world. Like if you want to be chasing Evan Ingram as a tight end scammer, that's fine. Brian Thomas is probably matchup independent at this point when it comes down to that. No news that would make me change any of my opinions when it comes to the Packers and their wide receivers. Your guess is going to be good as mine. Like I think Romeo Doubs is probably going to be the safest play when it comes down to it. Rest of the guys are going to be like all pretty much boom bust at this point after last week's performance when it comes to Jaden Reed. That could be ankle again. That could be the ankle that caused it to go down that low. But again, like I probably would like Jaden Reed. I'm not saying not to roll him out. That's not what I'm saying. I think it's just downgrade from theoretically getting some type of like wide receiver 1 like league winner to like just a guy I'd be throwing out there as like a wide receiver 2 in that range. And then Tucker Kraft is probably like independent because he's a tight end, can't break your heart when it comes down to it. All right, Colts and Texans up next. You're looking at 47.5 implied points, which is a little on the higher side, all things considered. Primarily 4-point favorites for the Texans. Colts are bad on defense, and they are like very going to be unpredictable when it comes to the offense at this point. If you're wondering, Jonathan Taylor, he is going to be off the injury report. So that means like any chance that you're going to be having to roll like your Tyler Goodson out there is probably like very limited. Michael Pittman's going to be off the injury report. I just think he's in that wide receiver 3 dart throw range when it comes to like all the Packers wide receivers. Your Adonai Mitchell, Alec Pierce, and Josh Downs are probably all in there because of the inconsistency when it comes to guessing on Anthony Richardson. Anthony Richardson, even in this game, is going to be like, hey, he's got the ability to finish as your quarterback ones. I probably would not be chasing CJ Stroud if you followed the Thursday night game with all those touchdown passes. That's generally probably what you're going to be needing out of CJ Stroud for him to be able to win your league. At the very least, like a couple touchdown passes could give you a 40-degree day from your quarterback position, but there are probably guys with higher upsides, even with the matchup. With Nico still being out, like Tank and Stephon Diggs would be rolls. So would Dalton Schultz, as that wide receiver or that number 3 in the offense, if you're going to be chasing like that low end coin flip tight end when it comes down to it. Joe Mixon would be like the only guy that I would really, really feel comfortable rolling out when it comes to the Texans. All right, Cards and Dolphins in this one, you're looking at 47 implied points by Vegas, and you're also going to be looking at a 6-point favorite for the Dolphins. This is a very, very interesting that Vegas is going to say like 6-point favorite for the Dolphins. They are expecting Tua back. The Dolphins did put Huntley on IR with a shoulder, and then Tua was full practice on Friday. The other things to be looking at in this game, and this is why it's a little surprising, this is the first game back for Tua with that concussion. So I don't know why I would just generally go out and say like, yes, the Dolphins are going to project to be like 6 points is getting close to like blowout land. That's what Vegas is saying against the Cardinals right now. And the Cardinals did scrape by against the Chargers. Chargers are not a bad football team. I don't quite understand that, why they would put it like that, all things considered. The other things to be looking at, Tyreek Hill, he's questionable right now with a foot, and you did get a DNP out of him on Friday. Probably the biggest news out of that, like outside of if you're the Hill owner and you thought you were going to finally be able to roll him out there right now, is going to be Jalen Waddle is off the injury report with the quad that he was dealing with all week. So he is full go. That would consolidate his targets. In your deeper leagues, we're talking like mostly dynasty stuff, like Malik Washington would be the guy to be paying attention to see if he's going to be the beneficiary of a theoretical Tyreek Hill being out in this one. The upgrade probably would be to A-Chain consolidation of targets if you're going to be looking at all that stuff. And then no news when it comes to the Cardinals rolling him out there. Like in general, Marvin Harrison is probably like a wide receiver 3 just because of overall usage. Trey McBride's going to be a unicorn. James Conner is still projecting to be a bell cow, and Kyler Murray is going to be like, rushing upside will win you leagues. Falcons and Bucks are going to be up next in this one. 47 or 46.5 implied points in this one. Part of it, this is a little surprising. 1.5 favorites for the Falcons, especially with the unknown of what the Buccaneers offense is going to look like with Mike Evans and Chris Godwin being out in this one right now. You are going to be looking at Bucky Irving for the Bucks popping up with a toe in this one. So you are going to be looking at DMP Wednesday and Thursday, limited Friday. And then the other news on this one before I get into the running back situation, I just want to say this real quick. Ryan Miller, this would be stashed in like deeper dynasty type leagues. He was moved to the active roster already, something that we could already project to be going on ahead of time. So consolidation of targets with Godwin and Mike Evans being out, that would upgrade Rashod White to probably like top 10 running back right now. With Bucky Irving being out, probably would upgrade Rashod White more. It would also move Sean Tucker into absolutely probably you should be looking at rolling him out as a flex or a running back 2 when it comes down to it. With Bucky Irving in play, I probably would take off Sean Tucker. I don't think it necessarily changes Rashod White too much. Like K. Dotton is probably the biggest beneficiary of all those targets. When it comes to the wide receivers, I think Jalen McMillan, and I go back to this one if it will come up. I think Jalen McMillan is going to be very much a dart throw. He's probably the best overall role when it comes to trying to guess on the Buccaneers wide receivers. I think Trey Palmer is going to have a certain amount of value. If you want to be just looking at like pure upside, it would probably be Trey Palmer. If you're really concerned with those vacated targets and you're in one of those leagues like Sterling Shepard, he's going to probably be the safe guy. In general, I'm going to guess that you're going to get probably like 70% snaps from Ryan Miller. They're probably going to give him a role in that X position. That's like where Mike Evans was rolling. And then you're going to get Jalen McMillan doing his best, like poor man's Chris Godwin, primarily playing the slot. And then that Z flanker type or the Z position, I definitely think that you could end up seeing a Trey Palmer rolling out there. And that's like why I say, like, if you're, I don't know how much I would trust anybody. Like Sterling Shepard would project to be that guy that could end up being the number 1 for the offense. I outside of Jalen McMillan, that would be the only guy I really would want to be throwing out there. Guessing that I'm going to get like 60 to 70% snap and some slot work. But I could also see that they just roll Sterling Shepard in that slot position all the way. No idea on that one. All right. Jets and Pats, they're going to be next in this one. Jets and Patriots, they're 42 implied points in this one. You're looking at the Jets by 3.5, which is slightly surprising. I don't talk about this stuff all the time, but you are looking at Hassan Reddick, the edge defender playing for the Jets. Like, this is another reason to be rolling the Jets out right now against Drake May and probably downgrading all the Patriots when it comes down to it. Alan Lazard is going to be out right now with a chest, so you could be looking at consolidation of targets when it comes to Garrett Wilson and Devontae Adams this week. They're probably just wide receiver 2s, if not like high-end wide receiver 3s, especially in the matchup in this one. And then if you're wondering about, I probably wouldn't be touching any of the running backs for the Patriots if I can get away with it. And that's primarily going to be because of this, JaMychal Hasty eating into the offense. Last week, I don't know if I could trust this in the matchup. And then wide receivers, like this is going to be a thing like Demario Douglas. Yes, he's off the injury report right now with that illness. I think there are better guys to be chasing, especially matchup based. Are you going to probably get about like 6 to 9 targets out of him? Yeah. Like, do I know what they're going to be? Probably not the good ones. So yeah, he could theoretically be the guy attached to Drake May. I don't know how much I would be trusting the matchup. I don't necessarily know how much I want. If I was going to be really chasing a guy attached to this offense, it would be Hunter Henry. Again, this is going to be like deeper league stuff. To be doing all that, Jalen Polk, he's going to be out with a concussion right now. Chasing all that stuff. So like maybe we can, this is probably less to do with like roll, don't roll, but maybe we're going to get a first extended look when it comes to Javon Baker this week when it comes down to that. All right, Eagles and Bengals, you're looking at 3-point favorites when it comes to the Bengals. Both these teams have been rather inconsistent all year, and you're looking at 47.5 implied points, which is like on the higher side this week. It's not like roll everybody type land when it comes to that. When it comes to the game, Dallas Goedert's going to be out, so like you are going to be looking at another week of Grant Calcaterra popping up as the theoretical dart throw as a tight end. in this offense. He's right here. And then outside of that, the other news is that T Higgins popped up limited with a quad on Friday. Outside of that, like I don't know if that necessarily upgrades anybody else that I'd be chasing in that offense. T Higgins and Jamar Chase, yeah, I'll absolutely would be rolls in this one. Bills and Seahawks. Curtis Samuel, he's going to be out with a shoulder. Dalton Kincaid did come off the injury report. We'll talk about DK in a second before I forget this stuff. Bills and Seahawks, 46.5 implied points in this one. And we're also looking at 2-point favorites for the Bills. Remember, this is going to be the weather game. I can also say that right here, you are going to be looking at Seattle being one of the worst run defenses. They're 4th worst when it comes to stopping the run right now. This is a weather game, so like this probably moves Ray Davis into that flex appeal type range going on in this one. And then when it comes to the Seahawks, and your guess, probably the biggest beneficiary, not named Kenneth Walker, of DK projecting to be doubtful right now, is going to be Noah Fant. He would be the primary guy I think would have the best streamability. So like when you're looking at trying to chase some of those other tight ends, like your Hunter Henry or something like that, like Noah Fant, there is enough there to say like I would feel pretty comfortable rolling him out. Tyler Lockett and JSN, I don't think necessarily their roles in the offense are going to change too much with DK being out, because like the guy that I think is going to step in and take the DK role is probably going to be Jake Bobo. If you're in a deep enough leagues to be chasing that type of stuff. And then when it comes to the Bills, because of that consolidation of target, like Curtis Samuel out would upgrade. Like Keon Coleman's probably going to stay in that dart throw range. Amari Cooper, I think you can roll with a certain amount of confidence as a wide receiver 2 in the offense. Khalil Shakur is going to be pretty much a 40-degree day, like probably slot only wide receiver in this one. And then like your Dalton Kincaid, he's off the injury report. Like he's just going to be like that dart throw wide receiver 3. I don't know what's going on with Sleeper. All right. Moving on, Saints and Chargers. I probably want to be staying away from this game if I can, generally because of the matchup and the lower implied points. Again, 44 implied points in this one. You're looking at Chargers by 3 in this one. Derek Carr is not out. He is listed as doubtful to go along with this one. Chris Olave is going to be off the injury report for the Saints with that concussion. And then you're also going to be looking at Cedric Wilson being out with a hip. So we are going to be looking at those consolidation of targets. Those 7 targets, 69% snaps that he did last week against the Broncos to be guessed between like Bub Means and Mason Tipton. Probably outside of like dynasty leagues, whether or not like Mason Tipton is going to end up being in that Rashid Shaheed role, or they're going to roll like Bub Means out there again. Like I don't know how much I really would be chasing either of these guys in a lower implied point total game. Remember, what I could definitely see both teams doing is dragging the game down in the mud, which means you're not going to get a lot of pass attempts to be chasing any of those guys. Like Juwan Johnson, I probably wouldn't be chasing him. Taysom Hill is off the injury report. Like the biggest thing with like those vacated targets, again, like upgrade Alvin Kamara if you want to be chasing that. When it comes to the Chargers, this would be if you are planning on rolling the Chargers against the Saints, which I think is a pretty good idea. Joey Bosa, I did see is going to be making his debut since week 3. The other news in this one, there's a lot of news when it comes to the Chargers. Ladd McConkey, after DNP on Wednesday, Thursday, was limited Friday. So maybe you can start talking about him being back in that wide receiver 3 type of range. Quentin Johnston, he did get a limited in on Friday after 2 DNPs with that ankle. And then if you were going to try and chase like Will Disley, he did do DNP. Let's see. DNP Wednesday, Thursday, did get a limited in on Friday, but, and this is probably the bigger reason why I wouldn't be chasing him, Hayden Hurst does do limited on Thursday, Friday after being out on Wednesday. So anyway, like, full bell cow, Will Disley's probably off the table when that, and then lower implied points. So I probably would be staying away from everybody not named J.K. Dobbins. Chris Olave, probably like, would be okay rolling him out there in the game with him back, and then, Alvin Kamara. All right, Bears and Commanders, 44.5 implied points in this game, and you are going to be looking at like 2-point favorites for the Bears. I was talking to one of my co-managers about this. We do have Jane Daniels And I would probably say at this point, because of the matchup, he did do a limited on Friday. That's after a Wednesday, Thursday DNP. I probably would not be rolling out Marcus Mariota because of the script. So now the two question marks when it comes to Jane Daniels would be if you have the ability to pivot to someone else with a better matchup, and you'd be looking at like a famous Jameis or something like that. I probably would be thinking about that, because the other thing with that rib in this game against the Bears and the matchup, all stuff that we can predict ahead of time, is that, like, can we even project that if Jane Daniels gets the start, that he's going to finish the game with that rib at that point? So if you're going to be chasing that point, quarterback's probably one of the easier positions to try and predict and roll out there when it comes down to that. That's about the only thing I have in that game to be chasing that. And then if Jane Daniels is out, like, the Bears are probably pretty safe roll regardless of whether Jane Daniels is going to play in that game. All right, Raiders and Chiefs. 47 implied points, and Chiefs by 4.5. Not surprising. I'm actually a little surprising that the point total is as high as it is, with as inconsistent or / bad both these offenses have been in general. So first and foremost, Juju's going to be out with a hamstring. Hopkins is supposed to play. I probably wouldn't be rolling out Hopkins outside of like a wide receiver 3 or flex range, because you just don't know how much usage he's going to be getting. Primarily, you're probably going to be, I'm going to guess, chasing red zone target or something like that when it comes to Hopkins in this one. And then I'm looking at my notes. Jacoby Myers, he is right now tracking towards playing. I don't know how comfortable I would really want to be chasing him as the number 2 attached to this offense. Questionable in ankle. He did limited Wednesday, DNP Thursday, full Friday. That probably doesn't worry me. The DNP Thursday, they just wanted to see how his ankle would respond to practice on Wednesday. It responded probably, I'm going to guess, like, well, and that's why he got the full in on Friday to be chasing any of that stuff out there. All right, Panthers and Broncos, 42 implied points. So again, I want to be limiting the amount of guys I roll out in this game. And you're also looking at 2.5 favorites for the Broncos coming in this game. So first and foremost, you are going to be looking at Bryce Young playing, so which is downgrades like everybody. This might even actually downgrade my expectation of Chuba Hubbard in this game, because with the traffic accident / thumb for Anthony Dalton, you are going to be looking at Bryce Young starting in this game. The other thing would be that Deontay Johnson has been ruled out with that quote-unquote rib. I did see the video of the reporters asking the head coach for the Panthers about Deontay Johnson trade, and he was like, go talk to the general manager. So this may be like trade rib that's going on with that one. And then if you're in deep enough leagues to either be chasing Jalen Coker or Xavier Leggett, to either stash or to theoretically be rolling them out there, like, good luck on that one. And then the other thing is Tommy Tremble, the tight end, questionable with a back. Probably the one guy that I would be chasing, if you're looking at the vacated targets, it would be Jontavion Sanders, and that's if Tommy Tremble is going to be out in this game, for me to even think about that. Right now, Jonathan Brooks is doubtful to be making his debut, if you're wondering. All right, who's up next? You're going to be looking at the Cowboys and the 49ers, and 47.5 implied points, which, again, this is another one that is a little surprising to me because of how inconsistent these teams have been. That's probably why it's like 47.5 points. 5.5 point favorite for the 49ers. That's generally not surprising overall in this one. You are going to be looking at Debo being questionable with an illness, so he's out of the hospital. He did do limited Thursday and Friday. When you're looking at that, so that's the biggest thing. Probably projects to be the number 2. You're also looking at Kittle being says uncertain to play right now. Last thing I saw on this one with Kittle, and I want to see if I have it written down. So he did limited Thursday and Friday. So like that's what I would generally be tracking towards him playing as the number 1 in the offense. If he's not the number 1 in the offense, that's when you're going to be looking at Debo. Then you're also looking at Juwan Jennings being out with that hip already. So like Ricky Pearsall, probably solid wide receiver 3 to be rolling out there in this offense right now going forward. And then Dalvin Cook for the Cowboys right now, somebody to be monitoring. This probably has the biggest impact, I would say, on whether or not I would be rolling out Rico Dowdle is if Dalvin Cook is active, then I would be thinking twice about rolling out Rico Dowdle. There's going to be a certain amount of usage is going to be cannibalized by Dalvin Cook being active in this game. And then finally, Giants and Steelers to finish all this stuff out. 42.5 implied points between these two. You are also going to be looking at Steelers by 4. The only big news on this is Cordero Patterson was limited on Friday with an ankle. That would probably be eating into the upside of Najee and Jalen Warren in this one. Otherwise, I'd feel pretty good about rolling out your pick and shares for the Steelers. I probably would be, if you get a Cordero Patterson's out, that would put like Jalen Warren in very ugly type of running back 2 type of range if you'd be wanting to roll him out there. And then when it comes to the Giants, like I'm just sticking to the guys, still projecting in a bad matchup that you're going to get a certain amount of Tyrone Tracy. And remember, this could be the good matchup. So even if the Steelers take away the rushing game, you're still going to theoretically be able to get the passing game, even though that didn't necessarily materialize against the Eagles in week 7. And then Neighbors, Wandale, they're probably fine rolls, like rolling them out where you're going to be rolling them out there. So anyway, that's about what I got for the Grift this week for fantasy football. And then hopefully I will be back on Sunday with the sausage.